This is the plaintiff, Alan Hanna. He says his former landlord assaulted him by punching him in the face. The maniac was arrested, and he got an order of protection against him. When the defendant was released from custody, he violated the order of protection and shut off his water and electricity. The defendant was rearrested. He shouldn't have to put up with this man's constant harassment and is suing him for $5,000 for emotional distress and assault. This is the defendant, Francisco Martinez. He says the plaintiff was basically a squatter in his home and he refused to leave. They ended up getting into an altercation. He simply pushed the plaintiff away from him, and the crazy guy ran downstairs and harmed himself so he would get into trouble. The case against him was dismissed. The plaintiff's just coming to harass him by filing this lawsuit, and he owes nothing. He's accused of tussling with a tenant.
All parties, please raise your right hand. Be seated. Come to order, please. Litigants have been sworn, Your Honor.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Okay, Mr. Hanna, you
Yes.
were living in Mr. Martinez's, what, basement apartment?
Yes, I was.
For how long?
About 9 years.
Oh, that's a long time. And were you paying rent?
Up to 2016. I moved in 2012, 2016.
What happened in 2016?
Well, when it was rent time, I asked Mr. Martinez when would I be able to get my new stove and refrigerator upon me moving in. That was the agreement.
That had been the agreement 4 years earlier?
4 years earlier when I moved in 2012.
And the first time you mentioned it's 4 years later?
I mentioned it every year, and he kept promising me that.
Every year?
Yes,
I mean,
every
I know,
year.
but you're not visiting there once a year. You're there the whole time. So you only mention it once a year in the
Well,
1 year.
I kept mentioning it to him.
You never moved?
I wasn't able to move at the time.
Why not?
Because I got in a car accident. 2017, I had 7 surgeries at
Right,
the
but
time.
this is 2016 when you're mad about no stove and no.
So what happened was I've been mentioning it to him ever since then. When it was time for me to pay rent that month, I brought it to his attention. He got irate, and I stopped paying him. So then I felt kind of bad because he walked away. He was a little pissed off. I spoke with his wife, and I decided to pay his wife. Instead of $800, I started paying her $500 because I was still living there. He wasn't liking that because at the time, him and his wife were getting into a nasty divorce. So when he wasn't receiving the money and she was receiving the money, he got upset with me.
So what happens in 2016?
He winds up assaulting me.
How?
Punches
Tell
me in the
about it.
face.
All right, I'm going to hand the pictures to my bailiff. Tell me exactly how that goes down.
So what happened was I'm talking to Mrs. Martinez. He comes into the room. He's screaming at me, yelling at me. I pay him no attention. I told him, not your child. Leave me alone. That's when he punched me. That's when I just walked out the house and I called the police and I had the police come. They came and they arrested Mr. Martinez.
What happened with that case?
That case was dismissed and referred to housing court, to eviction.
Do you have the disposition of that case in writing for me to look at?
I might have something that was given to me, but I'm not sure whether it shows a disposition of dismiss.
What's your understanding of what happened with that case?
Well, from my understanding, what happened with that case, from the assault case, he had an order of protection put on him for 6 months. Here it is. He violated the order of protection.
By doing what?
By turning off the water.
Is this recent or is this also 4 years ago?
This was in 2000. It started 2016.
This is
17.
the beginning of May of 2017. So this is about this. Now my question is, what happened with these cases?
From my understanding, as long as he left me alone, it would be dismissed, from my understanding.
So they got dismissed.
It was dismissed, Your Honor.
All right.
I just
Did
don't
anything
want-
happen between 2017 and 2020?
Well, what happened was in 2018, 12-18, I went to my house. You could just show this to her, I mean, incident report. I went to my house. I noticed that my phone service was shut off and my internet service was shut off.
And you've been living there without paying rent for 2 years. Now, the bottom line is that you can't rent that place out, right? Because you don't have a CO to rent that place
Well,
out.
I shouldn't have rented out, But you're right, Your Honor. I should have not rented the place.
Right. You don't have the authority to rent it out because it doesn't have its own separate CO, which needs to get inspected and approved and
that's
everything
correct.
else.
Which-
That's why it was, rent free. All right, now, you're accepting $800. He stops paying it in 2016. Why didn't you move to evict him right away?
I started to, Your Honor, but at the same time, I had lost my job and was in the interim of searching for a new job, so I couldn't afford just going and do the civil courts and until 2019.
I know, but it's like, you got the guy living down there. First he gets you arrested on the assault, and did you hit him? Because it looks like you hit him. I'm looking at the
Your
eye
Honor,
and punch in the eye.
He was self-inflicted. He ran straight
punched
down to the
himself in the eye.
Oh, absolutely. He already had a game plan to go ahead and try to stay more time without paying any money to me. So he went downstairs running, called the police. Once the order of protection was in place, I stood away from him as best as I could.
Are we going to get off the black eye? Is that Mrs. Martinez?
No, Your Honor.
Who's that?
That is my girlfriend, Anna Marie.
Oh, geez. All right. Is there still a Mrs. Martinez or no?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Yes, there is. She's not divorced.
So is it accurate that you and your ex were having problems at the time?
Oh, absolutely. We were going through a separation. She signed over the house to me at the same time of our separation, which happened in May.
And is it accurate that he was paying her $500 or he wasn't paying her either?
There was some verbiage of him giving her money, but not to the agreement terms of $800. He was giving her $400 here and there. To the agreement of him or a statement of what him saying of coming up to my
Once
house.
he stops paying rent, I don't understand. Like, why is he still living there? Many years did he live there rent free?
We actually tried to give him notice to move in May of 2016, Your Honor. I have
And what went wrong?
He just refused to leave.
I don't care. Then you go to court.
In Your Honor, I have such a humble heart. I wasn't going that way and aggressive.
That's just ridiculous. So what happens? You live there until when? What caused you to move out?
They told me I had to leave because it was legal
You cut your
basement.
nose off to spite your face. You contacted the authorities, and then the authorities said, get out. This is an illegal apartment.
Yeah, I had to
You
leave.
didn't expect that, though, right?
No, I had an idea.
Well,
I
then
started doing
why not
research.
just leave if you know that's what's going to happen when they go?
I started research. I really did. Before they came and made the inspection, I got my stuff out of there and I started staying with a friend because I was able to move around. But I
So you
wasn't
didn't
sure
call them until you had moved?
until I found a friend I could stay with because I wasn't sure if it was a legal
All right,
basement
so it
apartment or
turns
not.
out to be illegal, and what happens? Do you get cited?
No, Your Honor, he was evicted.
He was evicted by whom?
By the
Not you.
courts.
You don't know how to evict them.
No, the courts. The court evicted
Yeah, but
him.
the courts by whom? Let me see what you got.
Yeah,
Let me see
absolutely.
what you got.
The whole process, the judge actually told him to leave on the 28th. He called the building department on the 27th.
And then the building department told him you need to get out?
Absolutely, on that same day that he was supposed to be evicted out of the house.
But is this pursuant to your eviction?
Yes, ma'am.
It only took how many years? 3 years?
It took me
for you
a
to get
while,
your
but
act
it-
together
I
and figure
sure
out how
did,
to
but
evict him?
he
All
wasn't-
right, so what happens now? That eviction happened when?
On the 28th of October of 2019.
And then you filed this lawsuit that here today when?
2000, it was last year.
After this, right? Okay, so what are you suing for?
For assault, for him punching me in my face. For
From
him,
2016.
From 2016.
The statute of limitations is a year on that.
Okay. Also for the harassment, for shutting off my phone service, for
You're suing him for $5,000 for shutting off your phone service.
for my
And the
shutting
second
off-
year that you were living there rent-free, did you shut off his phone service?
No,
by the way?
this was actually just recent.
Well, recent. You moved out when?
This was recent that he did it. It was actually this year that he actually did it. So
This
I
year is
recently-
2020.
I mean,
You're
like,
not
that was
living-
last year. I'm sorry.
Okay. Do you have any proof you shut off your phone service?
My statement that the cable and the telephone was in my name.
Okay. You are suing in 2020 because in January of 2019 he shut off your phone, and you want $5,000 for that.
Well, he did that, and also that whole time since I've been there, he turned off the heat. There was no heat at all in the house. And if you notice,
And you don't feel like you stocked up enough in all those $800 that you put in your pocket and lived there rent-free. That wasn't enough to compensate for the things you're talking about.
no, because actually,
Can I hear from you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Did you shut off his heat?
Oh, God.
Welcome back to People's Court. Harvey Levin here. Do tenants play the system? In my experience, no, they don't. I mean, I'm sure some people do, but just as much as landlords will also play the system.
Fair point. Fair point.
Yeah, I think probably played by both sides, like he was saying.
Well, who plays it more? Landlords or tenants?
The tenants do.
Why do you say?
Well, because they know the law down pat. They've been renting for a long time, and sometimes they just know how to get around it.
Wild guess. You're a landlord.
Yes.
Going inside the courtroom.
When my son went to the cable company to activate our Wi-Fi, he was told that he couldn't install or activate the Wi-Fi or the cable because Mr. Hanna has told the cable company that he was the owner of the house to obtain the Wi-Fi and the cable capability.
But you don't have to be the owner of the house.
That's correct, but that's what was told to my family. So we had to actually show proof by me sending them the copies of the paperwork that I was the owner. And as I presented the copies to the owner, they actually activated our account.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Like, I can have my Wi-Fi in one room of a house, and you can have your Wi-Fi in another.
Apparently not in the basement.
I don't see why that would make a difference. A cable company can't wait to sell cable to different people.
Right, and I agree. But that's what we were told, and that's actually how it was deactivated. It wasn't us.
Did you turn off the heat?
Absolutely not, Your Honor. What took place was that Mr. Hanna actually started tampering with the heating boiler system as he was crossing over from two parts of the basement and messing with the boiler system that destroyed the whole entire boiler system. I have purchased.
He tampered with it how?
The heater.
Why? I heard you. How and why?
Oh, it's
to make it warmer? Or?
I have no idea what he did to it, Your Honor. I could tell you that I spent over.
How do you know he did anything to it?
Oh, because I have cameras in the basement, and
do you have any video to show me?
The phone. It's been so long since it's happened.
Why wouldn't you save it when you have all these problems with the guy?
I did, Your Honor, but my phone broke. That particular phone broke.
The dog ate my homework.
I know.
All right. So then what happens?
I have been still trying to repair the heating system to this day.
So you have no heat?
Absolutely not.
Mr. Hanna, why shouldn't I look at this exactly as what it looks like? You end up finally getting evicted, and in retaliation, literally 30 days later, you file a case against him for something that happened 4 years ago, and the statute of limitation has sailed.
Well,
okay?
One, it's because not only that, it's because there was no heat. He wouldn't put no heat on the house.
Prove that.
Okay.
Yeah, well, don't laugh. What did you think was going to happen?
Right now.
I know, you know? I mean, because it's kind of funny that you live in a place for 2 extra years without paying a penny. And so let's figure that out, shall we? You're supposed to pay $800, and that's for 24 months. That's $19,200 you put in your pocket, but you'd like another $5? Seriously?
Because he turned off it was a bad situation in there. There was no heat. He turned the water off.
You're not going to get another $5. You're sitting here complaining after staying there for 2 years about stuff that happened 4 years ago. The statute of limitations has run, so now you're telling me, and he took up my internet, and I want $5,000. After pocketing $19,200, you are asking me to order him to pay you $5,000 when the only reason you're in court at all is to harass him. Because as it turns out, he finally got out of his own way and got the eviction successfully. And it only took him, like, I don't know, 2.5 years to figure it out? Yeah, verdict for the defendant.
So the judge finds for the defendant. Mr. Hanna, what do you think? The judge thinks you were
She's crazy.
Mr. Martinez is on his way out of the courtroom. What a mess. What a mess.
I just wanted him exposed. He shouldn't do this
No,
to
he
anyone.
brought you to court.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I wanted him to be exposed and how he took advantage of my family and how many times he tried to take advantage of me. And you know what? He's exposed. That's all I care.
It took you way too long.
Absolutely. Again, it's a humble heart and not being able, knowing him for so long and not being able to take the next course of action aggressively. It's something that wasn't in my heart at that time. And you know what?
It's over.
It's over.
Thank
Thank
goodness.
you.
Thank
Amen
you.
to that.
Amen to that. Okay, thank you. Harvey?
So, Doug, if you live in an apartment and the landlord isn't doing what he or she is supposed to do, send something in writing complaining. The longer you wait, the more you compromise your rights.